Hi, guys. Welcome to Great Ideas and Where to Find Them. This is an idea locating and generating class. So if you guys are looking for your next big, great idea, you have come to the right place. So what constitutes a great idea? It's high concept. So this very first bullet point could be its own class about what makes high concept. And there's like 20 things that make something high concept. A high concept book being a book that appeals to a mass audience, like The Hunger Games or Harry Potter. Also, you will notice that this is heavily fantasy based because that's what I write. But these high concept ideas apply outside of the fantasy genre. So it's unique on the market. It's a twist on the familiar. It has a high level of entertainment value, a high degree of originality. It's often born from a what if question, which we will talk about more momentarily. It is highly visual, has a clear emotional focus. It may have an inclusion of a truly unique element, mass audience appeal, shock value, mystery, strong connection to the main character, an emotional ride. It can be pitched quickly, like a one-liner, and generates buzz. It also usually has some element of wish fulfillment in it, such as, well, I wish I was going to Hogwarts, right? That is wish fulfillment. So a high concept novel doesn't necessarily have all of these things, but all of these things can contribute to a high concept novel. Another thing about a great idea is that it will spawn further ideas. You kind of get a snowball effect. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I will get an idea and think, oh, that's really cool. And then a day or two later, I don't really care about it anymore. Whereas other times I will get an idea that I think is cool and it just kind of sticks. And then I think, well, if it was this, then this would also happen. And then this could also happen. And then this could also happen. And it just kind of organically grows. The idea that sparks like that for you, that makes you that excited, is often a good idea. And again, it makes you excited. If you are excited about your book, other people will also be excited about your book. If you're working on something and it is a slog for you and you don't enjoy writing it, likelihood is that other people will not enjoy reading it either. Okay, play with tropes. What is a trope, Charlie? A trope is a common and recurring literary device in creative works such as novels, TVs, and movies. You guys want to look more into tropes if you're new to the idea of tropes, tvtropes.com is a really great website for looking into tropes. Examples of tropes would be The Chosen One, The Secret Heir, Cranky Detective, Soulmates, or absent parents, which is very common in young adult novels. We hear about tropes. A lot of people synonymize tropes with cliches, which isn't true because tropes aren't inherently bad. They're common, which means they're popular for a reason. They're only bad when they're followed like roadmaps. The reader doesn't want to go to the same destination every time they pick up a book. They want to explore. Okay, so let's talk about playing with tropes. A twist. What are the readers not expecting? Essentially, you twist a trope by including some sort of surprise in it. Odd combinations. This is where you mash up tropes that you wouldn't think normally fit together. Layering. You include multiple tropes in the same novel, or you do a cast change. So many tropes come with an expectation of the protagonist, of who is going to enact that trope, and you can change it out. So, example, we're going to take the trope of the cranky detective. A twist would be that the cranky detective's sidekick is actually the competent one. Odd combo, the cranky detective has an ugly turned beauty makeover story. Layering, the cranky detective is actually a woman disguised as a man, and his original elderly mentor is still alive and even more elderly. Plus, he's in a love triangle with his assistant and his mentor, and he may or may not be the chosen one. Cast change. The cranky detective is now played by a popular drag queen. Blood Rose Rebellion by Rosalind Eves is a really great example of this. It started with an inverted chosen one trope. But what happens if, instead of being the one with all the power, you're born into a society where everyone else has magic? Another way we can play with tropes is genre, gender, and age swapping, which is where you take a known story and you tell it in another genre. You take a known story and change the gender of the characters, or you change the expected age of the protagonist. Examples, take The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now imagine it as a science fiction with Quasimodo as a woman. Take Peter Pan. Now make it a thriller with Peter as non-binary. Or take Mean Girls, but now it's a horror and it's with mean guys. And you can also, again, do this with age. You can take the expected age of a main character and change it. So going back to our cranky detective, I mean, the one that everyone thinks about is Sherlock Holmes, but what if Sherlock Holmes was now 12 years old? Or back to the Mean Girls idea, what if it was taking place in a retirement home? So we're changing the expected ages. Great example, Sanderson's Skyward book started with the trope, the boy and his dragon, but he turned it into the girl and her spaceship. Brian McClellan also did this. He was watching Sean Bean's Sharp's Rifles and realized he wanted to make a magical version of that. Okay, snowball smaller ideas. First of all, always, always, always keep a list. Please, if it's in a physical notebook, if it's on your phone, if it's on your laptop, whatever, any idea you get, write it down. If it's an idea that, makes you happy in any way, shape, or form, write it down. You will forget. And it might be an idea that you think, oh, well, I'm not going to do anything with this. You might not be doing anything with it right now, but you might do something with it in the future. So no matter how small it is, setting ideas, plot ideas, character ideas, magic ideas, anything random, even if it's just like, oh, this would be a great line of dialogue, write it down. Mix and match. So when you have a big list of ideas, this is really easy to do. You can go through and think, well, here's this idea I came up with January 2007, and here's this other random idea I came up with in December 2016. How can I make them fit, right? And you can merge what's exciting to you. So for an example of this, when I wrote the Numinous series, my publisher was pressuring me to write a series. I had at the time considered myself a standalone author, but they wanted a series and I didn't know how to write a series. So I went through this big list of ideas that I keep. And I wrote down every idea that at that point in time sounded really interesting to me. And I smashed them all together into a book. So these are the ideas that I had. I had an idea of writing a book about one of Helios's horses, one of the fire horses that pulls Helios's chariot. I also had the idea for immortality switch, essentially a way that you could turn your immortality on and off. And I had the idea of possession via Final Fantasy. So if you guys have played Final Fantasy, or if you haven't, you can have a summons, like usually some kind of a being or monster come down and fight for you. And I always thought, well, what if they could come down and fight for you, but they had to take over your body in order to do it? So it was essentially a Final Fantasy summons possession. And I took these ideas and I was like, well, let's just make them all fit into the same book. And I did. And that's how the Numinous series, which starts with Smoke and Summons, was born. Okay, the Wikipedia rabbit hole. A lot of us have been on this, whether we meant to or not. So this is where you go to Wikipedia, you click on a random article, you read, you click, you read, you click, and you repeat until you find something interesting. So case in point, this is what the front page of Wikipedia looked like on April 8th, 2021. So they will just show you a bunch of articles. You don't even have to type anything in. So I'm looking at this and I see, oh, this Astor Palace station was flooded by subterranean rivers. I'm like, that's really cool. What's that? So I clicked on it. In that article, you scroll down to points of interest, and I saw McSorley's Old Ale House, and I think I just liked how it sounded, so I clicked on that. And then I was reading about it, and I saw this. There was near beer at this place, and I have never heard of near beer before, and so I clicked on that. And then I found out that near beer was served during the Prohibition in the 1920s in the United States, and it had a low enough amount of alcohol that it wasn't against the law. And I thought that's really interesting. And by the time I got to this page, I had a story idea. I thought, what if I wrote a historical fantasy during the 1920s where someone was selling magical potions under the guise of near beer in New York City? What would the potions do? Would magic also be illegal or completely unknown to the common man? And there you go. And that literally was 5 minutes on Wikipedia, and there's a story idea.